Fearless may be one of the most ACIM adjacent films ever made without explicitly being about spirituality. After surviving the plane crash, Max experiences a radical shift in perception. The ordinary structures that previously organized his identity, fear of death, social performance, ambition, emotional distance, routine meaning-making, begin dissolving. From A Course in Miracles perspective, it resembles someone who has temporarily fallen through the ego's normal perceptual framework. The ego's central foundation is fear, especially fear of annihilation. ACM says the ego is literally organized around the belief in death and separation. So when Max survives what should have killed him, something in the ego structure destabilizes. He no longer fully believes the same story. That creates both liberation and disorientation. At first, Max appears almost enlightened, unusually calm, unattached, compassionate, unconcerned with status, oddly present, free from normal anxieties. Others interpret him differently: miraculous, insane, detached, traumatized, spiritually awakened. The ambiguity is important because the film refuses simplistic answers. ACM would recognize something real in Max's shift. When fear of death loosens, perception changes dramatically. The Course repeatedly teaches, you are not a body. Death is not ultimate reality. Fear is learned. The ego survives through identification with vulnerability. Max temporarily stops identifying completely with the vulnerable self-image. But the film also carefully shows that transcendence without integration becomes unstable. That nuance matters enormously. Some spiritual interpretations romanticize ego death or detachment while overlooking unresolved human psychology. Max becomes increasingly disconnected not only from fear but from ordinary relational participation: his wife, his child, his emotions, his embodiment. He moves into a kind of untouchable altitude. ACM's version of awakening is not emotional dissociation. It is loving presence without fear. Those are not always the same thing. Carla, the grieving mother, becomes crucial here. She represents unbearable guilt and grief, the exact emotional terrain ACM addresses repeatedly. She believes she failed to save her child. Her identity collapses into self-condemnation. Max becomes almost a miracle worker figure for her because he sees beyond the guilt story she cannot escape. Yet interestingly, Carla also helps reveal Max's incompleteness. Why? Because she still feels deeply. She suffers, she mourns, she trembles. She remains humanly vulnerable. Max, meanwhile, begins floating above vulnerability entirely. The film gradually asks, is he truly free or simply unreachable? That is a profound ACM question. The ego can actually co-opt spirituality into invulnerability. Nothing affects me. The world isn't real. Death doesn't matter. Fear is illusion. When used prematurely, those ideas can bypass unresolved grief, intimacy, tenderness, and relational honesty. The strawberry scene is one of the most powerful symbolic moments. Earlier, Max eats strawberries despite a severe allergy because he believes death cannot touch him. He experiences almost godlike invincibility. But later, when he nearly dies from the strawberries, the illusion of transcendence cracks. This matters spiritually. ACM does not teach becoming a superhuman self immune to form. It teaches releasing identification with fear while remaining loving and functional within the classroom of life. Max's breakthrough ultimately comes not through invulnerability, but through feeling again. He cries, he reconnects, he becomes reachable. That may actually be the deeper miracle. The ego often swings between terrorful attachment or detached transcendence. Love is neither. The ending suggests that genuine awakening is not escaping humanity, but participating without being imprisoned by fear. And that is much subtler than becoming fearless. ACIM might even say, the goal is not absence of human feeling, but the absence of separation beneath feeling. So Fearless becomes less a story about conquering death and more a story about what happens when the structures built around fear temporarily collapse, and whether love can emerge without turning transcendence into another form of isolation.